Although it was an issue that the students cared about, they clearly felt uninspired by the ideas they were generating. With just a few minutes left till everyone had to leave, we had done a lot of talking, but the energy level in the room was essentially nil. Glancing at the clock, I closed my eyes briefly and resolved at least to give us a starting point for the next session. "Everyone," I improvised, "let's forget about finding better answers for today. Let's just write down some better questions we could be asking about this problem. Let's see how many we can generate in the time we have left." They dutifully started to throw out questions, and I kept to my word, redirecting anyone who started responding with an answer. To my astonishment, the room quickly re-energized. It was as though I had flipped a switch. Instead of trudging out at the end of the session, people left talking excitedly, and with good reason. Among the questions scribbled on those chalkboards were a few that deeply challenged assumptions we had been making and opened up unexpected spaces for potential solutions. Brainstorming for questions, not answers, wasn't something I'd tried before. It just occurred to me in that moment, probably because I had been reading and reflecting on sociologist Parker Palmer's early work about creative discovery through open, honest inquiry. But it was a gambit I soon tried again and have since used in many sessions with constant refinement of the exercise. Virtually every time, I see this lift in positive energy and creative insight. What is going on in these rooms? Over the years, I have come to realize that it is a simple matter of creating a different kind of space for people in which the usual rules and norms are suspended and different behaviors are encouraged. More broadly, this small-scale exercise has convinced me that breakthrough thinking isn't just a product of superior gray matter. It's not all about the cognitive processes going on inside people's heads. To a great degree, it's a matter of the conditions in which they find themselves, which usually discourage questioning, but can be altered to invite it. Conditions apply. This emphasis on conditions deserves some explanation because it is not always assumed. If you ask yourself why people behave the way they do, your answer might put you into one of various philosophical camps. Whether or not you've ever engaged with the arguments of, say, Hegel versus Marx versus Popper, you might be more inclined to believe that people's thinking is determined by their environments or that it transcends those. This has been a question I have discussed repeatedly with a man I count as a great mentor and friend, Clay Christensen. I've mentioned Christensen in passing already, and many readers will recognize him as the author of The Innovator's Dilemma, which describes how large businesses are often disrupted by scrappy startups. He is a big believer that behaviors, the actions and decisions, that is, that people default to habitually, cannot be legislated in isolation. They always emerge in context. As an example, he points to the often unsuccessful attempts by capitalist democracies to export their practices to nations of the world that have not grown up with them. Christensen observes that where these have failed to take hold, it is because a general climate was not already established in which people voluntarily obey the law, honor their contracts, and respect the rights and property of others. Shifting the focus to these underlying preconditions changes the understanding of what needs to be done. The question becomes, what institutions could be established or strengthened to cultivate these instincts? Christensen is also a longtime believer in the power of asking the right question. He tells a story about the precise moment when this struck him, back in his student days at Harvard Business School. One day, when a classmate made a brilliant comment about a case study, he realized it came from a very different angle than his own analysis. He made a note to himself. What question did they ask of the case that led to such a great insight? And after that, as he prepared for discussions, he forced himself to pause before diving in to figure out a solution. He says, "The rare and valuable skill, I came to realize, was to ask the right question. That done, getting the right answer was usually quite straightforward." It wasn't until recently that he and I put these two beliefs together.